I don't remember inviting you. Oh, she must be talking about her party, I thought. She's probably showing off her fancy high-rise apartment to everyone. Well, I wasn't invited either, and I didn't want to go anyway. But Jasmine kept pressing me. Did you come here for a tour or something? She asked, looking at me with a smirk. You, who can only afford such cheap and boring clothes for your daughter. Hearing that, I decided to respond. Why shouldn't I be here? I asked. Because this is no place for someone as poor as you, she shot back. I said one thing, and it left Jasmine speechless. Her face went pale, then quickly turned red with anger. She called me a liar, which I found pretty funny. Let me explain a bit about myself. My name is Alan, and I'm a homemaker. I used to want a job, but my husband asked me to stay home and take care of our family, so I did. I work hard every day, and it's a joyful life. My husband, our lovely daughter, and I share a home filled with love and care. This story happened a few years after our daughter was born. By then, she was old enough to start preschool. We looked at a few schools and chose one where we thought she could grow and thrive. At first, she was nervous, but she quickly made friends and enjoyed her time there. Through her friendships, I met other moms and made friends too. Most of them were kind, but a few were not so nice. One of them was Jasmine. Jasmine always acted like she was better than everyone else. Other parents told me her husband worked at a famous company, and she loved to brag about being his wife. Jasmine's stories were always about fancy things, staying in luxurious hotels, traveling abroad, or buying expensive designer items. Recently, I had to hear her brag about having lunch at a famous chef's restaurant. While Jasmine had a small group of friends among the moms, I preferred to stay away from her. But, as life goes, we can't always avoid certain people. One holiday, I took my daughter to the park and unexpectedly ran into Jasmine. Oh, hello there, she greeted me. Jasmine was dressed in a tight, elegant dress and delicate, strappy shoes. Everything she wore screamed expensive. Her outfit was eye-catching and flashy, hardly what you'd expect someone to wear to a park with their child. Hello, I replied, trying my best not to look uncomfortable. Jasmine suddenly stopped smiling and stared at me. Her gaze confused me, and I wondered if I'd done something wrong. Then I realized she was looking at my daughter, who was standing beside me. Jasmine chuckled in a mocking way and turned to me with a smirk. Hey, where do you buy your daughter's clothes? She asked. I was caught off guard and wondered why she was asking. But her next comment made it clear. Those clothes look so cheap. Don't you feel bad for your daughter? It was true that my daughter was wearing a simple t-shirt and skinny jeans, the kind you could find anywhere. But they were neat and clean, and I'd never thought much about it. I just laughed lightly and ignored her comment. Anything I said would probably lead to an argument, and I wasn't in the mood for that. It was better to avoid unnecessary confrontation. When I gave Jasmine a forced smile, she seemed to think she had struck a nerve. With a smug expression, she said, "If you can't afford better clothes, let me know. I can give you some of my kids' old clothes. They're second-hand, but if you want, I can even give you some of mine." I had no intention of taking her offer, so I replied vaguely, "Sure, I'll keep that in mind if I ever need to." By now, our kids were busy playing on different equipment, and I was eager to end the conversation. "My daughter seems to want to play somewhere else, so I'll have to go," I said. "Well, if you ever need help with clothes, don't hesitate to ask," she said with an exaggerated wave as we parted ways. As I walked away and saw my daughter's cheerful smile, my irritation started to fade. Not long after, I heard that Jasmine was inviting some of the moms to a party at her house. Apparently, she and her husband had just bought a brand new high-rise apartment, and she wanted to show it off during the party. I wasn't invited, but I didn't care. A party at Jasmine's house was bound to be an opportunity for her to brag, and I had no interest in that. Rumor had it that there was even a dress code for the party. Guests were told to wear flashy, brightly colored, and glamorous dresses, hardly the kind of thing you'd expect for a casual gathering at someone's home. I also heard that Jasmine only invited moms from well-off families to her party. Looking at the guest list, it was clear, these moms had husbands with high-ranking jobs at global companies or came from families that owned large properties. The dress code seemed like a way to filter the guests. Realizing once again how much Jasmine judged people based on wealth, I was completely fed up. I seriously started thinking about how to avoid her in the future. But as long as our kids were in the same preschool, avoiding her completely seemed unlikely. After the awkward park encounter, I also realized we lived in the same neighborhood, which made things even harder. I found myself wishing the problem would just disappear, so much so that I even wished on a star. One day, I found myself walking into a high-rise apartment. I opened the automatic lock at the entrance, stepped inside, and looked around the floor. Suddenly, a door creaked open, and to my surprise, Jasmine appeared. I froze for a moment, caught off guard. But I quickly regained my composure and said, "Well, hello there," even though I didn't really want to speak to her. Jasmine, however, didn't return my greeting. She just stared at me with wide eyes, clearly shocked. We looked at each other in silence for a moment before Jasmine frowned, her anger unmistakable. Then she spoke. "I don't remember inviting you," she said coldly. I realized she was talking about her party. "Well, I wasn't invited," I replied simply. And honestly, I didn't want to go anyway. Jasmine didn't like my answer. She snapped, "Then why are you here? Why am I here?" I repeated. "Did you come here to tour this high-rise apartment?" she sneered. "Even though you can only dress your daughter in such plain, cheap clothes?" Her mocking tone was unmistakable. I decided it was time to speak up. I carefully chose my words and said, "Do you think I shouldn't be here?" "Yes," she said confidently. "This isn't a place for someone like you." "And why is that?" I asked. "Because someone poor like you doesn't belong here," I responded calmly but firmly. "Well, this is actually my home." Jasmine froze. Her expression went blank, and her face turned pale as she processed what I had just said. It was obvious she hadn't expected that response. She blinked in disbelief, struggling to understand the situation. Then, her face flushed with anger. "What do you mean?" "Explain yourself," she demanded. I looked at her and said, "Let me clarify for you." I calmly explained to Jasmine, "Actually, my husband is the president of several companies. They're not famous, but they generate a significant income. Thanks to that, we live quite comfortably. He owns several properties across Japan, and this high-rise apartment building we're in now is built on one of his properties. So technically, this building belongs to my husband, and it's also our home. My husband knew I wanted to work, so he entrusted me with managing this building. That's why I'm here regularly." Jasmine's eyes widened in shock. "What? I didn't know that," she exclaimed. "When I signed the contract for my apartment, I met a man who was the manager, not you." "Oh," I replied. "That must have been my husband. He handled the key handover for me this time, so we didn't meet." "You can tell all the lies you want," Jasmine snapped. With that parting shot, she stormed back into her apartment. But then, to my surprise, she returned with her arms full of random items, children's toys, stuffed animals, clothes, and stationery. "You're the one dressing your kid in pitiful clothes." "Stop lying," she shouted as she started throwing the items at me. "There's no way you earn more than me." Her sudden outburst left me speechless. The items she threw scattered around the floor with loud thuds, a clear sign of her uncontrolled anger. I decided it was time to clear up another misunderstanding, the park incident. "About my daughter's clothes that day," I began. "What about them?" Jasmine snapped. "Do you remember the day we were at the park? What does that have to do with anything? My daughter loves playing in the sand, so I dressed her in clothes that could get dirty." "That's all," I explained calmly. "Lies," Jasmine yelled. "It's the truth," I said, pulling out my phone. I showed her a picture from my album. In the photo, my family of 3 was smiling together, and my daughter was wearing a recognizable children's brand outfit. Jasmine froze, her eyes widening even more. "You only dressed her nicely that one time, didn't you?" she screeched, desperately clinging to her denial. "That's not true," I said, scrolling through more photos. I showed her multiple pictures of my daughter, some dressed nicely for special occasions, others in casual clothes for messy play. Seeing this, Jasmine clenched her fists and trembled, unable to come up with a response. "What? What are you trying to say?" That being wealthy makes you superior? She yelled, her anger spilling over. Suddenly, she pushed me hard on my shoulders. That was the last straw. Other mothers who had been observing the situation came outside and tried to calm Jasmine down. She lied to me. There's no way she lives in this luxury apartment. Jasmine shouted. She's just pretending to be more popular than me. Despite their attempts to soothe her, Jasmine kept yelling. Eventually, perhaps from sheer exhaustion, Jasmine finally quieted down. She stood there, breathing heavily, looking disheveled, her hair a mess, one slipper missing, and surrounded by the aftermath of her tantrum. The hallway was littered with broken toys, damaged stuffed animals, and other items she had thrown. I glanced inside her apartment and noticed our children peeking out, looking worried. "Are you satisfied now?" I asked, giving Jasmine a polite but fake smile. She didn't respond, her face twisting in frustration. "I hope you enjoy your luxury apartment brag party," I added as I walked past her. "And please, clean up the mess you made." From behind me, I heard her shout, "Liar." It was a weak attempt at defiance, and I couldn't help but chuckle. After this incident, Jasmine's reputation among the other moms completely fell apart. Her arrogant behavior had already caused tension, and this outrageous tantrum was the final straw. What made things worse was that Jasmine even tried to make the other moms clean up the mess she had created. They refused and began distancing themselves from her, labeling her as unstable. The close friendships Jasmine thought she had built among the preschool moms dissolved, leaving her isolated in the community. Not long after, rumors began circulating that Jasmine had gotten a divorce. Apparently, Jasmine had been living extravagantly on her husband's money, spending on international trips and designer goods. This had strained their marriage for some time. The tantrum where she threw objects at me, and refused to clean up afterward, was the final blow. It was said that her husband confronted her and decided to end their marriage. Jasmine reportedly begged him, "Please don't leave me," but he responded firmly, "I never thought you'd stoop this low. I can't stay with you anymore. I'm taking custody of our child." And with that, Jasmine was left completely alone. Their marriage had been a secret elopement, so Jasmine had no family or close friends nearby to support her. Jobless and without her husband's financial support, she struggled to get by. News of her fall from grace spread quickly, making it difficult for her to find work. Eventually, Jasmine found a part-time job at a supermarket. She now lives in a rundown, 50-year-old apartment with creaky doors, barely making ends meet. I hope that through all this, Jasmine has learned her lesson, not to judge people by their wealth.